Helen and Gary Tomasoni are dealt a good hand in life.
They'd giggle a lot and hug each other. They didn't yell, they didn't fight.
They were just so comfortable together.
Until their winning hand turns bad.
I had to get the money back to the bank.
And they risk losing everything, including their lives.
They found a .32 caliber handgun as well as a spent shell casing.
We just didn't believe it. This could not possibly be true.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. When college sophomore Gary Tomasoni first sees high school senior Helen Tinsley, he is thrilled.
Gary.
Helen. Gary and Helen met at a party when Gary was going to the Hibbing Community College.
Helen was just really nice, just very simple, very kind.
Want to go to another party? With me?
Helen was also shy and quiet around people.
Okay.
Helen is flattered to be noticed. Gary's a college guy after all.
Gary was good looking. He had reddish hair and good features. And she was tall and slender, very nice looking.
One date turns into two, and soon they're spending all their time together.
He carried himself with a confidence, but it was a friendly confidence. He was well-liked, had a lot of friends.
He was very kind, had a good sense of humor, liked to laugh.
He was just a very nice, salt-of-the-earth kind of guy.
And he's a good match for Helen.
Helen was the easiest person to be around. She was very down-to-earth.
They'd giggle a lot and hug each other. They liked to ride bikes. They liked to go on walks together.
They were just so comfortable together. They were definitely partners, best friends.
Helen starts spending a lot of time at Gary's.
We got together a lot as a family. We did a lot of cooking and eating. She helped out. She did dishes. She took care of the kids especially. I was 8 years old when they met. I didn't have a sister. It was nice to have another female in the house that would hang out with me.
Everyone, stand back. I'm on fire tonight. Who's in?
Helen is also initiated into one of the family's favorite pastimes, cards.
Gary would often be the person that would want to get a game going. He was always enthusiastic about playing cards. He enjoyed a little bit of sport with it too. If there was some gambling, that would always make it more interesting.
Somebody would throw in $1 because we'd play for $1 and things like that. We always assumed when Gary would play cards with us that he would be the winner because he was always really lucky at cards and anything that he played. We had a great time playing cards. It was one of my fondest memories from growing up.
Helen is a little less enthusiastic than the rest of the gang.
When it came time for the family card games and stuff, Helen would play sometimes. She certainly knew how, but it wasn't her favorite thing to do.
Helen loved to read. She was a huge reader. You could find her anywhere reading a book.
Two years in, their relationship is perfect, except for one thing. Gary has diabetes.
Many, many nights I remember him being sick and just not feeling well at all. Was losing eyesight in one of his eyes very badly, and then later on his kidneys started to fail. He had to go on dialysis, and then he was put on a waiting list for a kidney. So it was really tough on him to have to just sit down or just lay back when he wasn't feeling well because he always wanted to be up and out and going. It really restricted many things that they liked to do together because he would have to go in for his treatments.
But none of this phases the couple.
I love you.
She knew exactly how to take care of him when he had his episodes.
And in 1983, 2 years after Helen graduates from high school, the young couple ties the knot.
They got married by a justice of the peace. The whole family was there, and it was really fun. Lots of laughs were had at their wedding.
They find a modest apartment to rent in Hibbing. And a year later, they welcome a son they named Jack.
They were very excited to be married and living together in Hibbing. Helen was a great mom. It was awesome to see her feed Jack and take care of Jack, and she was just very happy.
Everything is rolling out according to plan. And before Jack is a year old, Gary lands a steady job at the University of Minnesota.
With the little one especially, they were looking for better jobs down there.
It means moving 3 hours away to the Minneapolis area, but it's a great opportunity.
He got health benefits, which was really helpful for his diabetes, and it was unionized.
Gary and my husband were co-workers at the University of Minnesota power plant. He was top-notch, according to my husband, as a co-worker. He had medical issues, but he seemed to do well. We would bring in food and spend that time together, and it was a good time.
Helen also finds work in the city, and Gary is behind her all the way.
He supported her in her job and what she wanted to do.
Helen was a junior accountant at Bemis Corporation.
Helen was very well liked. She was respected. She was a hard worker.
It was a great new beginning in their lives.
They've never been happier. But one thing is missing from Gary's life: cards. Now that game nights with his family are 3 hours away, he finds a game closer to home.
There were 2 casinos that he went to. One of them was called Grand Casino in Hinckley, and the other was Mystic Lake Casino.
He liked to gamble, and he loved to play blackjack.
Gary's no longer betting pocket change. But Helen doesn't mind, so long as Gary keeps to the family budget.
How'd it go? All gone? You didn't blow it all, did you?
It always seemed as though he knew what he was doing, and he was being responsible.
Besides, to hear the Tomasonis talk, Gary wins more than he loses.
When it came to gambling, he was lucky.
I never really heard that he would lose.
I just figured, good for Gary, awesome. After all the bad luck he's had with health and stuff, good deal.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Brian Russell and psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser see a young couple who use cards as a way to cope.
Gary was raised in a family of gamblers, and so it makes sense that it's become part of his life. I also think it's a great distraction from his medical problems because he can immerse himself in the thrill of the win or the worry about the loss.
Sometimes when people have suffered the way that Gary has, they can develop a sense of sort of entitlement to indulge themselves in other ways and justify it on the basis of, because I've suffered this way over here, I get some slack over here. It's possible that because of Gary's chronic illness and because of Helen's nurturing nature, she may have indulged him a little bit more than she otherwise might have in his gambling habit.
After a decade, Gary is still trying his luck at the casino. At home, his marriage with Helen flourishes. But unfortunately, his health does not.
I'm sorry. I know I'm not pulling my weight around here. Don't be silly.
He had been very sick, and I was worried about him being on dialysis so long.
I'll go get your insulin.
His arm was swollen, and it was something that he had to do so frequently. It must have been very difficult for them as a family.
That's when they get 2 pieces of wonderful news. First, Helen discovers she's pregnant again.
That's wonderful.
They were very surprised that they were going to have another child. Jack was already 8 years old, and they weren't planning on having any more kids.
Then, just a few months later, a life-changing phone call.
What? What is it?
Hospital call. They have a kidney for me. That's amazing.
It was just a joy to know that he was going to get a new kidney.
Should we leave, like, right now, or?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
Except that joy will be short-lived.
Helen said, I couldn't sleep last night. I was so mad at Gary.
Get off my back.
She always put herself last.
After 10 years of marriage, Helen and Gary Tomasoni are happier than ever, except for one thing. His diabetes is slowly destroying his kidneys. When a donor kidney becomes available, he rushes to the hospital for a transplant. But sadly, Gary's body rejects the new organ, and he finds himself right back where he started.
The first transplant failed after like 12 hours.
Gary, I'm so sorry. I hate dialysis. I hate it. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Just gotta be patient, okay? Yeah.
He went back on dialysis and he had to go back on the waiting list. It was pretty depressing for the whole family. We were so elated that he got the kidney, and then we're opposite when he rejected it. We're all completely devastated.
It was very hard because Helen had to work and take care of Gary.
Transplants literally serve to improve a life or give people life. And so when you finally receive one, it is one of the most exciting moments you could possibly have. And so for Gary to have his kidney transplant fail is going to be devastating for him. He doesn't know how long it's going to take to get another opportunity for a transplant. He's going to be back to having physical issues. He's probably going to end up very depressed and angry, and so's Helen.
For Gary, the prospect of a kidney transplant represented the prospect of getting out from under this chronic illness with which he had struggled since childhood. And if you have a transplant doctor, a really good one, they always prepare you for the fact that the transplant may not work the way it's supposed to, but the hope that you would have as a chronic illness patient that it would work is overwhelming. And so it's completely understandable that this would be devastating for Gary to have had the prospect of the transplant be sort of shattered as quickly as it was.
Helen thinks that what Gary and the family need is a fresh start. And so they buy a new home in the suburbs.
It's a quiet little neighborhood with the park a half a block away from the house on a dead-end street. And there wasn't very much traffic.
The plan seems to work.
My children would play a lot with Gary. Helen and I sometimes took the kids to the pumpkin patch, and the kids just loved to play together. They all got along really well. The Tomasoni family seemed like a very happy family.
Gary's health problems are ever present, but he does his best to lead a normal life.
We would hear from time to time, Gary's having kind of a hard time. He's going back into the clinic or into the hospital for a while, and things would get better, but it was always there. Everybody was just sort of taking it in stride, and one day at a time.
4 years go by when, out of the blue, the phone rings.
Gary and Helen received news that he would be able to get another kidney and a pancreas this time, so that was really exciting news for all of us. They were a little bit cautious, a little bit apprehensive because of the first time, but also very excited.
This time, Gary is in luck.
The transplant was successful.
Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
To Gary's new pancreas and kidney.
And to enjoying all the sugar I want. Cheers.
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 He wouldn't have to give himself shots. It would be like he didn't have diabetes anymore. Pretty much a new life.
He was so excited. I asked him what kind of a difference this was going to make, and he said, "Mary, I celebrated and had a glass of Kool-Aid. I never thought having something with sugar in it was such a big deal."
Well, keep it coming. All right.
It was really a turning point for the way better, that finally they could do this without this huge weight that was always on them.
You'll never believe how much I won at the casino. Oh, hold on, the boys are here. I wanna tell them too. I'll call you back.
Then, in 2005, the icing on the cake.
Look how much I won at the casino.
I remember Gary calling me and telling me he had a huge win at the casino.
The casino gave him a check for $200,000 and gave him the rest in cash, so $60,000 or $70,000 in cash.
Mom, what are you and Dad gonna do with the money? Let's buy a big fancy car.
It was a big celebratory thing. Everybody was pretty excited.
In the end, practicality wins out.
We'll see. Yeah, there's the mortgage payments and the car.
They were able to pay off her car.
They paid off their house and things were really good.
On the upside, Gary and Helen have a lot of positive effects of this big windfall. They're paying off debt, life is stress-free, they have some money in the bank, and those things are all good for the relationship. On the negative side is the possibility that now Gary's gonna wanna win again, and he's gonna think if he goes to that casino just enough times that if it can hit once, it can hit again.
When you look at the brain of a gambler under an MRI machine, the rush that they feel when they put money on the line and win is like what you see with a drug addict when they feel the rush of cocaine. So as exciting and thrilling as we can all understand this probably was for Gary, the downside is the allure of it now, of trying to replicate that, is gonna be just that much stronger.
And Gary doesn't quit gambling while he's ahead.
My husband told me that he had one time come to the power plant with a large winning and wads of bills.
He was going to the casino a lot.
Helen, ever the responsible accountant, is starting to change her tune on Gary's favorite pastime.
Helen was not very happy about Gary's gambling and that it was taking up too much of his time.
And too much of their money. It's also starting to affect their marriage.
Gary, this has to stop. I take care of everything. The kids, the house. And where are you? The casino. That's 3 nights this week.
Helen, I just won big, okay? Leave me alone.
That's why it's the perfect time to stop. Winning streaks never last. Gary, you have a problem.
I don't have a problem. I can stop whenever I want. Get off my back.
I remember one morning Helen looking at me and said, I am so tired. I couldn't sleep last night. I was so mad at Gary because he went to that darn casino again.
6 months after his big win, Helen has had enough.
You need to see someone.
I can handle it.
Gary? This is important. For you, for us. For me.
Okay, Helen, yeah, I'll try, yeah.
He told family and everybody else that he had stopped gambling.
It's okay.
That he had started seeing a counselor and was done gambling.
Or is he?
It wasn't a lot of money, but it was easy money.
The returns they were getting were so good, these people thought this has got to be legit.
Gary Tomasoni's gambling addiction balloons out of control after he wins $250,000 in a single night at the casino. At his wife Helen's insistence, he quits cold turkey. Yet Gary's not quite finished with high-stakes ventures.
So it's a bit of a fixer-upper, but we do the fixing up and then the cashing in. It's a no-brainer.
Gary and a co-worker had an opportunity to purchase a house and rehab it and resell it, hopefully to make a profit.
Wow, this is so exciting.
They asked their friend Jane, who's a real estate agent, for help.
And once it's sold, we all split the profits. I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship.
Jim and Gary approached me to write a contract so that they could purchase this house together. They purchased it for $130,000. They were really excited about that new venture.
Gary and Helen keep their day jobs, but spend their evenings and weekends on their pet project.
I remember Helen getting home from her one job and leaving and going to work on this house.
They did a lot of work on the front porch. They painted, they upgraded the bathroom, they put in new appliances, they fixed the walls in the basement, they enjoyed working together on it, and I think they were both very proud of the results of their work.
Within 6 months, they make a profit of $100,000.
Hey, it's like I said, no-brainer, right? Cheers.
They were very pleased with the amount of profit that they were able to make. It was nicely done.
So Jane, you got any more houses like this one?
I gave him probably 6 or 7 different listings of the ones that were on the market at that time.
Gary did hope to flip another house because the first one went so well.
For Gary, who always thinks big, flipping one house at a time is not enough.
He told me that he had quit his job at the university.
It's going great, honey.
And he had decided to rehab homes as a new career.
They had made some money from that first house, and they had decided that this is something they wanted to continue to do. Gary wanted to continue to do.
Now, if you think of that first house as a practice run, just imagine how much profit we can turn now that we know what we're doing.
To make it work, Gary needs help. Financial help.
Gary told us that he had started rehabbing one up north, he said, and had asked for financing with that.
So he was looking for some investors because he was really excited about flipping another house. And so he wanted to get a bigger house to get more money after he flipped it.
He said they needed it for windows or carpeting or paint.
Impressed by the success of the first flip, Jane and her husband invest $12,000.
I always required a date and signature on the form that stated he was borrowing money. So it was all documented. And he always wanted cash.
Now, I found a place for dirt cheap, but we have to act fast because I already found a buyer. Now, I just need a quick cash injection for, materials and down payment. But if we move fast, we're looking at turning a profit. Nothing too crazy, mind you, but worth it, decent.
It's tempting, but we can probably only afford maybe $9,000.
9,000? Yeah. That's perfect.
Gary explained that he thought it would be kind of a fun way to make a nice income by buying houses, fixing them up, and selling them.
And within a few months, Gary starts showing his investors modest returns.
I was excited. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was easy money.
It makes me nervous that Gary decided to quit his job to flip houses in the way that he did. Can put a lot of stress on the family. They have kids to provide for, they still have bills to pay, and so the potential instability of their finances can put stress on the relationship.
The fact that Gary is now wanting to give up his steady 9-to-5 income after one real estate success suggests to me that what may be happening is what we see happening with drug addicts who sometimes shift from one drug to the other or from drugs to alcohol. Gary's gambling fixation may be shifting a little bit from gambling with casino games towards gambling with real estate.
Part of what I'm seeing in Gary's behavior is that he feels like he's invincible, like he's a winner. He won in the casinos, he won in the house flip, and so now he just thinks he can do anything.
A few months later, Gary offers his investors the chance to invest even more money, with the potential for bigger returns.
The amount of money we stood to make would pay off one of our vehicles. So we discussed it and we decided we would.
The more profits they see, the more the investors are willing to pitch in.
They continued to give a little more each time. The returns they were getting initially were so good. They trusted him. They had known him for years. They'd known him as a nice person.
It looks like business is ticking along, like a ticking time bomb.
She had recently taken up a second job working evenings at the Metro Gun Club.
I was getting nervous.
Helen and Gary Tomasoni renovate an old house and sell it for a profit. The project goes so well that Gary decides to quit his job and flip houses for a living instead. 24 years into their marriage, Gary and Helen appear to be on top of the world.
They were actually getting closer. They were spending more time biking and shopping and just being together.
I haven't been bike riding for a while. Yeah, it's crazy how busy we've been. Everything's going so fast. Feels like yesterday the kids were little, now Jack's moving out. Can't believe he's getting married.
They were very happy that their son was going to get married, and they liked her.
But there are signs the flipping business isn't going as well as Gary might like. For one, Gary has taken on a new part-time gig as a janitor at a church.
He was doing janitorial type work and working on the boilers and things like that for the church.
I was very confused when I found out that Gary had gotten a second job. I didn't understand why. I never thought they needed extra money.
And Helen's found another job too.
She had recently taken up a second job working evenings at the Metro Gun Club.
I thought she's got to be exhausted because she's working 2 jobs and trying to keep up with the house.
To make things worse, weeks have gone by without the investors seeing any profits, and some are getting antsy.
Gary said that he was going to pay us back the beginning or the early stages of July of 2007. It was getting to be mid-month, and I was getting nervous.
We were starting to be a little concerned that there was more money going out than there should be. He still owed us a little over $120,000.
I reached out and I called his house, trying to find out when he was going to pay us back because I had to get the money back to the bank. Helen answered the phone.
Hi, Mary.
And said, Gary is not home right now. Can I have him call you back?
Okay, I'll give him the message.
Jane Sandberg also calls.
Gary was very upbeat about it and said, we'll meet on Saturday. You and Jerry and Helen and I'll go out for dinner and I'll bring you money.
Yeah, I could give you some cash then. It's $70,000 work. Okay. Great. I'll see you then.
There are signs other investors are equally nervous, and not all of them are friendly neighbors. Mary Mockrose's teenage daughter is with her friends when they notice something odd.
A car had come around the neighborhood a couple of times, and my daughter described it as there were some thugs, some scary-looking men in the car, and they would slow down in front of the Tomasoni house, and then they'd speed up, and it went by twice. It scared the girls, so they went in.
Gary and Helen have no idea about this.
It's getting a bit late for this little girl.
That night, they spend a quiet evening with their son, Ryan.
Helen had gone to bed between 10:30 and 11 o'clock.
What about you, sport? Getting late for you?
Gary told Ryan to go to bed, watch TV for a little bit, and then fell asleep on the couch.
Because of his health complications, he was either shivering or sweating. And so it wasn't uncommon for him to be sleeping in the living room.
He heard someone say, "Give me the money," and then he heard a bang. Ryan heard the bang and it kind of pulled him out of his sleep, but it was a groggy wake up. Then Gary checked to see what was going on.
He looked in and saw Helen there on the bed.
She was completely naked, laying on top of the covers.
And she was bleeding.
Right! Okay. Something's happened to your mom. Call 911.
Ryan's dad
told him to call 911.
My name is Ryan Thomasoni. I think there's someone in our house. Can you please come? I'm scared.
Ryan's terrified as he's telling the police, get here, hurry, there's an intruder in our house. There were gunshots and this mom was hurt and shot. Then you hear Gary pick up the phone.
She's just lying there. There's so much blood. I think my wife's dead. I think she's dead. I think my wife's dead.
He's talking in a really high-pitched, hysterical voice. Almost sounds like a wounded animal because he's just so upset.
Police and emergency responders arrive minutes later.
Officers were on scene in a matter of 2 minutes, and were checking the outside of the house right away to make sure there was nobody outside.
EMS was there right away, and within a few minutes, they ruled her as deceased.
Helen Thomasoni, 45, is dead from 2 gunshot wounds to the head.
Gary was still in panic mode. He told the officers that there was a screen that was bent and that was moved out of the window, and he thought that's how the person got in. So they went and cleared the house to make sure there was no intruder in the house. Once the officers realized that everything was safe, they protected the crime scene and applied for a search warrant to search the house.
A few hours later, Gary and Ryan are taken to the sheriff's office.
Gary and Ryan had been brought to the police station for interviews just to verify and get on tape what they remembered happening.
Ryan never really said anything that made the family stand out or remarkable. Gary suggested that they were happy.
And how about you? Did anybody want to harm you or your family?
No.
So nothing at all? Like nothing from your past?
I had some issues with some gambling a long time ago, but I went for counseling.
It's one of those things as a detective you sort of make a mental note of, and you want to come back to.
Everything was fine. Look, all I know is somebody broke in and shot my wife.
He thought he woke up to hearing someone in the home, hearing a noise, and that his wife was found there and that she was bleeding. We continue to question Gary, just fact gathering here and trying to get his story. We were starting to knock on neighbors' doors. Did you see something? Did you hear anything? Did you hear cars or people in the area?
Mary's daughter tells police about the strange car she saw the night before.
I have never seen anybody like that in our neighborhood, but my daughter and her friends saw it. They were low riding, sitting way low, and they could barely see over the steering wheel.
Were they casing Gary and Helen's?
It was a mystery. How could this happen?
News of Helen's death rocks the community.
My phone rang, and I looked in the caller ID, and it said Jack. And the first words he said were, Mom's gone, Mom's dead. And it was very shocking. It was hard. It was hard to hear that she was gone. And I said, what's going on? And of course I was in total and complete shock. And I said, what happened, Jack? And he just said an intruder broke in and shot her.
We were all just sick, and we were so upset.
We just didn't believe it. We really believed that there was a mistake, that this could not possibly be true.
Gary and Helen's relationship has been a very symbiotic one in that she has really nurtured and cared for him, and he has leaned on her. And so now that she has been killed, he is really going to be left unable to cope. I mean, she did so many things for him. She took care of the kids. He's not going to know what to do with himself.
All the plans that he made, everything that he thought his life was about and that it was ever going to be, is now completely thrown up in the air.
Days later, Helen's funeral is held.
Hey, Mary. I feel badly asking you about this. I mean, here of all places. But did you guys by any chance invest in Gary's real estate business?
It was at Helen's funeral that a lot of people came together, and during the course of their conversations, they quickly learned that everyone involved in Gary and Helen's life had loaned them money.
That's the first time that I was aware that he had borrowed from anyone else.
Those families that had provided this money to Gary came to law enforcement asking for help.
We all fessed up what all of us had invested.
That's over $350,000.
The IOUs were simply handwritten on a piece of paper. I was astonished at the amounts that Gary had borrowed from friends and neighbors.
But that's not the only shocking discovery.
I went to the counties and asked, does Gary Thomasoni own any properties, or has he owned any properties in your county? And he owned no property other than the home he lived in. Gary had no assets to collect or go after.
Gary hasn't bought or sold a thing since the first house that Jane Sandberg listed.
It was all a scam.
And investors haven't seen or heard from Gary in days.
You better pay us back or we're gonna come after you.
And it was a complete and utter shock. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Gary Thomasoni tells police an intruder broke in and shot his wife of 24 years. But at Helen's funeral 10 days after her death, her friends and family realize they are united in more than grief.
We determined that they didn't own other properties and hadn't. So that leads you down the path of let's kind of dive into Gary's gambling.
Police apply for search warrants for the 2 casinos Gary used to frequent.
We sought to obtain his gambling records going back to 2004 or so.
And discover Gary's big win was followed by an even bigger loss.
In 2005, the year he had the big win at Grand Casino Hinckley, he lost nearly $350,000 at Mystic Lake Casino.
Gary told friends that he had stopped gambling. It doesn't appear from the records from the casinos that he ever really stopped.
There was no record anywhere of Gary having sought treatment for gambling addiction.
He just kept racking up the gambling debts.
That debt had accumulated to amounts that are incomprehensible.
He was losing $50,000 and $60,000 a month. He had lost a total of $430-some thousand. But when you compile it with what he owed his friends, we're looking at $750,000. They had refinanced their house and they were behind on the payments. They were taking loans out. They had restructured a credit card.
He was just taking money from one person and paying off the other person. Gary was sort of creating his own Ponzi scheme.
And what police find in the house seals Gary's fate.
They'd found a large locked filing cabinet in the lower level of the home.
They opened up the washing machine and found a polo shirt that he'd been wearing the night before that had blood on it and a pair of shorts. And inside the left pocket of the shorts found keys, and the keys actually fit into the file cabinet. And in the file cabinet, one of the lower drawers, they found a .32 caliber handgun as well as a spent shell casing. On top of that, they also found lots of paperwork that talked about life insurance.
Gary, you have a problem.
I don't have a problem. I can stop whenever I want. Get off my back.
Police and prosecutors believe that by 2006, Helen knew that Gary had squandered their life savings, and she was angry.
She was clearly aware of their mortgage and the other bills that weren't being paid, the credit card debt.
Helen, being very pragmatic, must have at times challenged him for what he was doing. She was a caretaker, but she was also strong in her own way.
Helen had been cashing out her retirement money to try to help stop the bleeding. She borrowed $1,000 from her sister initially and then another $7,000 later.
Painted this picture of someone that was just absolutely committed to her husband and her kids, and she was going to do whatever it took to keep that family together.
Hi, Mary. Gary, no, he's not here.
I don't think she knew about all the debts that he had with other people because they weren't bank statements. They were just kind of these promises to repay.
Those promises made Gary desperate.
Gary was starting to panic. He was supposed to be meeting with one of the borrowers that following Saturday, the 21st, to pay them back $70,000, and he didn't have it. He was getting to the end of his rope.
So he devises a plan to kill Helen for her life insurance.
Helen had a $500,000 life insurance policy. Gary was hoping to use that money to pay off the debt that he'd accumulated due to his gambling.
That night, he waits for Helen and Ryan to go to bed. He grabs the gun and goes upstairs.
Please, what are you doing?
Turn around.
Turn around!
Gary must have confronted Helen.
Take off your clothes. Take off your clothes!
Told her to get down on her knees on the bed.
Gary,
Get on the bed.
Gary, please. Gary, please. I love you. Don't do this to me, please. Gary, we can work something out. I swear to God.
He shot her, it grazed her. She stood up, he went back and knew he had to do it. He had already hidden the gloves, the gun, and that at his clothing. And then Ryan came upstairs, and it jumbled up his ability to make it look more like an intruder had been there.
If Ryan hadn't woken up when he did, Gary would have had time to make the intruder's story more believable.
Ryan! Something's happened to your mother. Call 911.
The window was only open a very small amount. There was no sign that it had been forced open.
See? Officer right here, that, right there. That wasn't like that there before.
And it didn't appear that had been a point of entry, as there were no footprints and the dew on the grass hadn't been disturbed. Through desperation and poor planning, he tried to create an incident in which he could collect life insurance. It wasn't well thought out, and it didn't work.
It wasn't an intruder at all, and it was a complete and utter shock. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Gary decided that the answer to his financial problems was the life insurance policy that belonged to Helen. What is particularly disturbing to me is the way he went about killing her. He clearly had emotionally disconnected from her because he did it in the house where his son lived, and because he did it so brutally.
When you look back at the path that Gary's traveled, you can see a path of escalating narcissism. You can see it when he starts gambling and puts the family's finances at risk, and then he starts his Ponzi scheme in the real estate business and starts putting not only his family's finances at risk, but also the finances of other families and friends of theirs. He ultimately feels entitled to go all the way up to and including taking the life of another person to serve his own interests.
They start walking around saying, I have to win, I have to accomplish this at any cost. And no one else matters. Life, death, emotions go out the window. And I believe that's what's happened with Gary.
On August 4th, 2008, Gary is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Gary is 47. Police never do track down the driver of the mysterious vehicles scoping out the Thomasoni's house.
Maybe Gary borrowed money from a loan shark. Maybe these were people saying, you better pay us back or we're gonna come after you.
Friends and family still can't believe Helen's gone.
I miss Helen so much. I miss her cheery face. I miss her friendship. I miss her kindness, her goodness.
She was a sister to me, and I wish she was still here. It's been hard. I know it's been really hard on the boys. It's been hard on the whole family.
She was a mom, somebody that loved her family more than anything. Yeah, I miss Helen. She's one of the good ones.